Baseball has seen legends who could hit, run, and dominate. But Ty Cobb was something else entirely, a force of nature, wrapped in spikes and determination. He didn't just beat you, he made sure you remembered it. In an era before home runs ruled the game, he terrorized pitchers, stole bases with reckless abandon, and turned every at-bat into a battle. He finished with the highest batting average in history, .366. A number so untouchable, it feels almost mythical today. And yet behind those numbers was a man feared as much for his ferocity as he was revered for his skill. Was Ty Cobb the purest competitor baseball ever knew, or the most dangerous man to ever step on a diamond? Ty Cobb was born on December 18, 1886, in the small rural town of Narrows, Georgia, a place of red clay roads, cotton fields, and a culture built on hard work and stubborn pride. His father, William Herschel Cobb, was a respected educator and state senator, known for his strict discipline and unshakable moral code. His mother, Amanda, was fiercely protective, but expected her children to meet the highest standards. From the start, life tested young Ty. The Cobb household valued intellect over sport, but baseball had already taken root in his heart. With little more than a worn glove and a ball stitched from scraps, he practiced in open fields until the light faded. He chased every grounder like it was the ninth inning of the World Series, even though organized baseball was a distant dream in rural Georgia. Tragedy struck when Ty was just 18. His father, the man he most wanted to impress, was shot and killed by his own mother under circumstances that shocked their community. Cobb would later say that from that day forward, he played every game with a burning need to prove himself, as if his father were still watching. That loss forged a fire in him that never went out, shaping not just the player he became, but the relentless way he approached life itself. For Ty Cobb, the road to the majors was as rough as the Georgia dirt he grew up on. In 1904, at just 17, he convinced his father to let him leave home to chase what seemed like an impossible dream, professional baseball. He boarded a train with a suitcase, a glove, and little else, bound for the minor leagues in the Carolinas. The early months were brutal. Cobb faced older, stronger players who saw the skinny teenager as nothing more than fresh meat. They spiked him on slides, mocked his southern drawl, and tried to intimidate him out of the game. But instead of breaking him, the hostility sharpened his edge. He learned to play with a kind of calculated meanness, using every ounce of speed, guile, and grit to beat opponents at their own game. It was in Augusta, Georgia, playing for the Augusta Tourists, that a scout from the Detroit Tigers first took notice. Cobb's batting was raw but electric, his base running fearless to the point of recklessness. In August 1905, barely 18 years old, he was sold to the Tigers for $750, a small sum for a player who would go on to redefine the sport. Just weeks later, on August 30th, Cobb stepped into a major league batter's box for the first time. His father had been killed only weeks earlier, but Cobb carried the weight of that loss like armor. From that moment, every swing, every stolen base was not just for the win, it was for his father's memory and for a promise he had made to himself to become unstoppable. From 1907 to 1919, Ty Cobb didn't just play baseball, he ruled it. Wearing the Old English D of the Detroit Tigers, he became the most feared and relentless hitter the game had ever seen. His batting average soared year after year, culminating in a career mark of .3666, still unmatched over a century later. He won 12 American League batting titles, including an unprecedented 9 in a row. And in 1911, he hit an astonishing .420, a number so surreal it reads like fiction. But it wasn't just the hits. Cobb turned base running into psychological warfare. He stole 892 bases, 54 of them in a single season, and an incredible 8 by stealing home, often with a lead so daring that pitchers would lose focus just thinking about him dancing off third. He slid hard, spikes high, daring infielders to block his path. The crowd gasped, opponents cursed, but Cobb only grinned. To him, every inch of dirt was territory to be conquered. He was a master of what the dead ball era demanded: bunts, hit and runs, line drives into the gaps. Home runs were rare in his time, but Cobb didn't need them. He could dismantle a defense in a dozen different ways, forcing teams to play at his pace. His intensity bordered on obsession. He studied pitchers, memorized their habits, and used their smallest tells against them. Yet for all the glory, Cobb's dominance came with an aura of menace. Teammates respected his skill, but feared his temper. Opponents despised facing him because they knew he would do anything to win. In the summer heat of packed wooden ballparks, when the air was thick with dust and tension, Ty Cobb didn't just represent the Tigers. He was the embodiment of baseball's most primal instinct, to compete without mercy and to never, ever yield. All his brilliance on the field, Ty Cobb's career was shadowed by controversy. The most infamous moment came on May 15, 1912, in New York. Heckled relentlessly by a fan who taunted him with slurs and insults about his family, Cobb finally snapped. He vaulted into the stands and attacked the man, who, as it turned out, was physically disabled. The league suspended him indefinitely, and newspapers across the country erupted with outrage. It wasn't an isolated incident. Cobb's reputation for volatility, both on and off the field, became part of his legend. He brawled with teammates, clashed with management, and earned a place in countless headlines for reasons that had nothing to do with batting averages or stolen bases. Writers painted him as a violent racist, a man driven by anger more than skill. For decades, that image stuck. But in later years, historians began to challenge the myth. Some stories were exaggerated, others entirely fabricated by sports writers eager for a villain. Cobb had enemies, and in the cutthroat world of early 20th century baseball, a fearsome image was as much weapon as liability. Still, the damage was done. His name carried both awe and infamy, leaving fans to wrestle with a question that has never fully been answered. Was Ty Cobb truly the monster the papers claimed, or the victim of a legend twisted beyond recognition? When Ty Cobb retired in 1928, he left behind a statistical legacy that bordered on the impossible. Over 4,100 hits, a .366 career batting average, 12 batting titles, and a reputation as the fiercest competitor the sport had ever known. In 1936, when the Baseball Hall of Fame opened its doors to its first class, Cobb received more votes than Babe Ruth, cementing his place among the game's immortals. But Cobb's legacy is more complicated than numbers carved in record books. For some, he is the ultimate symbol of baseball's raw, uncompromising spirit. A man who willed himself to greatness through sheer drive and intelligence. For others, he remains a cautionary tale about how obsession and aggression can overshadow even the brightest talent. In his later years, Cobb was not the snarling figure of legend, but a man who gave generously to hospitals and quietly mentored younger players. He often returned to Georgia, walking the same red clay roads of his boyhood, reflecting on a life lived at full speed. More than 60 years after his death, Ty Cobb's story still sparks debate. Was he the greatest hitter who ever lived? A villain crafted by the press? Or perhaps both? A man whose greatness and flaws were inseparable. One thing is certain. When the history of baseball is told, his name will always be there, sharp as the spikes on his cleats, daring you to decide for yourself who he really was.